Okay. It always starts like that.
Yep.
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 I'm Corey.
Whoa. Let's try that again.
Who you? Should we No, we don't edit.
We don't edit. No. Okay. So then I'm 2021 Woody.
Oh, I like that. This is the ISOcast. Yeah, I can't sit here hour by hour with all of the other things I need to toil away at on the computer and fix intros. I can't.
Nope.
I could, but I can't. And I know that is what I'm saying is I won't, but I can't.
Nobody cares. It's endearing. I like to believe that you mess up and it's endearing to the listener. That's what I like to believe.
Right. So happy 2021?
I guess.
Yeah.
Question mark?
Why not?
Asterisk? Do you say, this is important, do you say 2021? Do you say 2021? Or are you the rebel that says 2021?
I'm a 2021er.
Okay.
But I heard somebody say 2004 the other day. Have you heard this?
No.
Yeah. I said, well, in 2004. I'm like, what? But I guess if we said 1906, why wouldn't you say 2004, right?
Okay.
So which are
that makes
you?
sense. I'm 2021 as well, but I saw this circulate on the internet and I thought it was clever. By saying that, it sounds like 2021.
Oh, like with a W.
W-O-N. Yeah.
Like it beat us. I guess. I mean, it's really, I understand the value of, like, I don't want to be that guy, but I just don't subscribe to anything is different because, it's a different calendar year. I like the idea that we set sort of a milestone. But if, Atty and I were talking about this, I would celebrate more readily the Persian New Year, right? Where it's because this is the beginning, of what we'd consider our revolution around the sun, a change of the season, an actual, like a physical thing that affects the planet that we're living on, as opposed to, well, some Gregorian monks came up with a system and we decided that this is January 1st.
God bless him.
And it's no different than December 31st. There's just no difference. Whereas I think with every transformation of the spring, there is transformation as well. There's growth, there's rebirth. It's symbolically, I might be that guy who's like, Happy New Year. I'll call you in 3 months.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'll be the counterpoint just because, and I think we have this discussion every year. No, there's nothing special about January 1st. Absolutely not. However, and I used to be the guy who said rituals are not that important. We don't need rituals. We don't need to celebrate rituals. However, pandemic has changed my mind. I think there are certain instances that we should celebrate just because it gets us, it helps hone us in on what actually is important. And January 1st is not an important day. However, I think we need instances throughout whatever calendar we use to help remind ourselves of what we actually want to do, what's important to us, to help get us back on track.
It's a calibration.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I get it. The 2020 worst year ever. And it's like, well, for some people it was. Right. I really don't like that response. It's like, well, what about World War II? And what about this? What about? And it's like, you know what? It's a 15-year-old kid. It wasn't here.
You don't need to compare things to everything.
Right. For a lot of people, this was the worst year ever. Period.
Period. Full stop. Yes.
So don't stop giving people a hard time.
I don't like when people... Here, we're going to do this today. Okay. I don't like when people say, yeah, but what about? Mm-hmm. It detracts. Both things can be true. First of all, World War II can be, the most horrific war that's ever happened, arguably. Right. And 2020 could have been the worst year for everyone who's currently alive on Earth. Both of those things can be true. And by saying, yeah, what about, detracts from the former in that example. It's
a fallacious argument, right? Because you can always find another what about, right? And, yes, we're blessed. Of course we're blessed. We're two white males talking on the internet about a pandemic that's ravaging the world. So
That largely doesn't affect the two of us sitting here
But
as individuals.
my psychoanalyst would be happy to point out, well, that doesn't necessarily negate your feelings or experience. Just because you're white and you're privileged and you're talking on the internet about the pandemic and how each other's feeling doesn't mean that your feelings are invalid. And one man's pain is only relevant and relative to himself, right? So you can say, oh, but what about this person who's so sad because their father fell off a crane? Well,
so Corey, you're not allowed to be sad because Frank's dad fell off the crane, right?
Right. What about Frank's dad? I mean, you should all of a sudden go ahead and should yourself and be happy because you are white or something.
And you don't have a crane.
It's just, there's a lot of things that about 2020 that bothered me. And that was one of them, was getting down on people for they themselves having a hard time. And then the other is, and since we're getting into it, I'm going to get gripey for a moment.
Let's do this. Yeah.
I don't like cancel culture. I don't like this idea one bit.
Same.
Not in any way to condone the activities or actions of people. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm getting at is that this demonstrates, in my opinion, an inability for a society to learn and to grow. It's a cop-out. It's a shortcut. It is ghosting people from the world. And it is not the way that we're going to get better as people by saying, oh, you said this in 20-6. You're not allowed to exist in our society anymore.
If we are going to move forward with the notion that people are no longer allowed to make mistakes, that is not going to be a very productive future for all of us.
Amen. Look, certain potential global leaders aside who may or may not be irredeemable.
And there are levels of mistakes, obviously. It's not a blanket, everyone gets a pass on one thing. No, well, it depends on what the one thing is, clearly. But if it's just you dig up a tweet from me from 19 years ago when I was 14, well, you know what? Probably we're just going to throw that one out.
Forget about what I put on the internet. There are things that I have said my entire life that I would cancel myself. Like, I've been a jerk on more than one occasion. And, let ye cast the first stone. I'm telling you, we can't, just because it's now available for revision and review, doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't do something just like that. It's just nobody knows about it.
Exactly.
So if you think you can go around canceling people, all that means is that so far you've gotten away with it. Mm-hmm. You've gotten away with being a human.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
We're on lockdown, like super duper lockdown.
I saw that you sent me well, so are we, but you are way more hardcore than we are. Send me a little text here, which is if you're not, I don't know if I assume other countries do this, but maybe not. Do like Amber Alerts where the government will text you at any time of day with usually a missing persons infographic. But in this case, you sent me an Amber Alert that it's a curfew.
Yeah, this is not your average deadbeat dad ran off with the two kids and they found him at Chuck E. Cheese. This is like all of a sudden, and I mean all of a sudden, because we're at this place now where I would love to have this dialogue. The government has decided, to be clear, in Quebec for the next 28 days that you are not allowed to go out after 8 p.m. or between 8 p.m. and 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. Okay, I'm gonna try. I got to get this right, otherwise I'm gonna get fined for saying it wrong.
The time changes in 2021, so here we go. Yeah.
So everything closes, whatever's left open. Let's be real, because pretty much the only thing open now are pharmacies, grocery stores. That's about it.
Right.
And everything in many of the big stores like Walmart is covered in black garbage bags and caution tape.
Oh, so they were able to do that. It's a miracle.
Right. Wow. Yeah, so it's like, don't buy this WD-40, though you have an oily door, because that's not essential.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on a rant. Anyway, 7:30, that all shuts down. You got to be home by 8, with certain exceptions, which are not necessarily vague, but vague enough that you could certainly get into trouble by taking the trash out. Oh. And this is going to be for the next 28 days. And this is hardcore lockdown. My concern has always been, what's the science behind this? That's one. We don't have an answer to that because they won't give one because there isn't. But more, it's that we've lost that sense of cooperation on this project, COVID, in Quebec, big time. It's now definitely the government's like, it's your fault. You guys are doing things wrong. Everything that's happening is because you're not following our guidelines. We're not going to say in 1 second, we won't even consider the fact that the guidelines themselves might be flawed. We're not going to say that.
No.
But definitely remember it was the kids.
Yep.
Right. And then it was the gatherings, and then it was the churches, and then it was the kids again, and then it was Christmas. And
now it's nighttime walks, apparently.
Now it's nighttime people. It's people going out at night. I can't stand it. And it's not because I'm somewhat inconvenienced as a bit of a night owl that I have to get up earlier in order to make sure that I have milk. But it's the notion that the way to address this is to punish us like we're children, like we've done something wrong without even acknowledging the possibility that your moral contract over Christmas and your guidelines and your approach as a government might also not be so perfect.
Well, I think we're at the point where this whole thing has just kind of hit the fan because Ontario's playing the blame game as well. Although the policies I think have been a little bit opposite of Quebec because it's been not more lenient here with Mr. Ford. But the whole thing's hit the fan because politicians went to the Caribbean over Christmas. Right. All of them across the country. Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, BC, you name it. And they no longer work in government. But that's not just important for those individuals, but it's important for any messaging that comes out thereafter. It's just going to not be listened to now. Whether it should be listened to or whatever is a different conversation. But it won't be now because the credibility is gone. So
yeah. And that we're now at a place where, and I've heard this enough amongst my social circles, that we don't trust the government not because of their own credibility, but because they're consistently lying to us, right? So Quebec is a perfect example of, prior to Christmas, they had this ridiculous idea that we'll have this moral contract with Quebecers that if we do this for 2 weeks, then you can have 10 people for Christmas, right? It's like, what? And then halfway through the moral contract, guess who broke the contract? The Quebec government. Well, our case numbers, I did say if the case numbers went up, and they went up, so we got to do a lockdown, but the lockdown's going to be from Boxing Day to January 11th.
Same here.
It's like, okay, sure. Because again, we all know, no, wait a minute, we don't, where these cases are coming from. We don't know the source of spread because we don't have contact tracing and we don't publish any relevant data. Big numbers don't help. Where are these cases being spread? I can guarantee you it's not the flower shop. It's not.
I promise it's not changing the topic. Did you watch SNL this fall season?
I haven't watched it in years.
In years? Okay. They had this brilliant character on Weekend Update called Dr. We Know This. And the whole line, she would just say, to respond to a question, she would say, we know this, or we don't know this.
I love that.
And it was so simple, but so smart and so brilliant. And the whole bit, and she would come, every other week on Weekend Update, which is by far the best segment of that show, continues to be. And the questions would just be the same things that you're asking and others. And it would just be, we know this, we don't know this. So where are the cases? Doctor, we know that. Where are the cases coming from? We don't know this. Should we go into lockdown? Oh, yes, we know this. Well, why should we go into lockdown? We don't know this. That is brilliant, but it's like good sketch comedy, right to your soul because it's true.
It's so funny. And for me, that's, I think, really does touch on how frustrating it can be to try and understand what's politically motivated, economically motivated, what are health measures that we're taking, all of these things. And again, we've said this from the beginning, a lack of clarity is the problem. And there also now seems to be a full lack of transparency. Because if we can't get through one promise without you changing again, and that's the point, is like, tomorrow was going to be the end of the lockdown. of the stores. And now we're in lockdown and curfew. So it's like, wait a minute. You didn't even do what you said you're going to do. It's like, we need to do this until the January 11th. And then you decide we need to do this now in the middle of that, in addition to that, and extend that. And it's not that I don't think we care that that's what we have to do. It's the feeling like you've always known that. That's now we're kind of getting the, none of the timelines you've given us happened. None of them. I think
we proved as humans that we're on board with whatever needed to be done from March and April, because we all got locked down and we all said, hey, okay, let's do this. And then as this has transpired and what we've been doing has, some things worked, some things didn't. We don't really know why. I definitely don't know why. I don't know anything about the science behind it. But you can't change your mind every 2 weeks and do something else and do something else. You have to pick an avenue and kind of stick with it. And we know that it takes at least 2 to 3 weeks to see any movement in whatever direction, to see if anything has been working. So if you're changing your mind every 10 days, then it's got to be counterproductive, because we haven't even got the Christmas numbers back yet, because it takes 2 or 3 weeks for those right. spikes to come in. And if you're changing your policies every 2 weeks, then really you're doing nothing.
Stay in your lane. I've had this idea, but who hasn't? I call them rolling lockdowns, right? So, in places like California, I understand they manage some of the power consumption concerns by having what they call, rolling blackouts, where they shut down areas timed, in order to manage the amount of electricity available, something to that effect. I'm probably entirely wrong about that. But what I imagined is having regional rolling lockdowns, hardcore though, 2-week lockdowns in territories and regions that cascade through the country and are planned. So it's almost like you create these little firewalls. You can't go through these places. You can't leave these places for 2 weeks. If everyone knew, you got a calendar. Here's the annual.
Are you saying you give people notice, Corey, before you do something? Yeah. Is that what you're? That's radical.
But I mean, notice. It's like, here's how it's going to work. It's going to go for 8 months. And you're going to, in your 8 month, in your territory, in your county, or wherever you are, you're going to have 3 of them. And these are the dates. And here are the things that you can do within your county. And here are the things that you can't do within your county. And I feel like what you do is you put in, you're not going to stamp it out, but you're putting enough stop gaps between this part of the forest fire and this part of the forest. Sometimes it's like, control burn and clear this part of the forest so that it can't even burn that far.
Right.
Maybe I'm crazy because I've been home a lot.
Seems like a good idea to me. Yeah. About 2 or 3 times a week, Maya will turn to me and say, are you okay?
Right.
Are you okay? And that's my clue that I'm just maybe, my response to her is, I spend a lot of time alone,
Yeah.
And you talk to yourself, and you I guess that's my clue that, okay, I'm starting to go off the wonky end again a little bit, that your behavior does change when you spend a lot of time alone.
Speaking of Maya, one of you two has been inoculated.
Yeah, she got the jab.
The jab. I never liked that. We got to come up with a catchier way of doing this.
I thought, stupid me, I heard her say that to me, and I didn't know she was joking. And I thought that was a real term. And I said it again, like a week later, and she's like, that's not really, like, it's such a joke. It's not the official, I thought that's what nurses said to each other. It's like, no, that was just a joke I have with a friend. It's not really a thing. Like, oh, okay. So inoculated.
I've heard that from people though.
Have you?
Like people of, particular authority get the jab.
Oh.
So maybe they don't realize that we listen sometimes to what they're saying.
We listen. I try to. But your rolling lockout idea is good. I think, all of this is the reality of hospitals being at capacity, at least in the Toronto area. I don't know what in Quebec it's like, but basically there's no space. And I only know this because Maya kind of shares with me what her friends are saying to her about different hospitals that they work at.
Yep.
And there are 0 beds available. Yep. And Ontario has this plan now to ship people to far-flung places of the province if you're sick because there's no room for you now.
Yep.
So that's real. And I'm not smart enough to make whatever decision needs to be made, but that's bad. I know that. So
Well, we're at that cancellation of surgeries stage again, right? I think so much of this gets lost, right, in all of the stuff that's been going on. I forget often that what this means is not just like we don't have a bed necessarily to treat you if you get sick. It's like we don't have beds to treat people who are sick of other things as well.
I mean,
and need these beds.
You go out today and get hit by a car, you're not going to the hospital. It's not happening. You know?
Yeah.
And the we is, I mean, it's not we, you and I, because I have nothing to do with any of these things.
Right.
And the we is decreasing because a hospital is just a building. It's not people.
Yeah.
The people who work in those buildings are quitting.
Yeah.
They can't do this anymore.
Or dying.
Or dying.
Yep.
So there's that too. Not only a bed, but not a person who's really good at what they do to help you.
Right. Because I think we all heard the quick fix. It's like, well, why haven't they spent the last 9 months expanding our hospital system? It's like, because you can't manufacture doctors like you can the thing that came in on Amazon today. It's
right.
There's a lot of training that goes into what they do. And there's a lot more than like for some, like, I guess one could look at China and go, wow, how did they build 5 hospitals in 20 minutes? You know, but I don't know who they staffed it with. Right?
Well, that's exactly. The hospital is just a building. It's not, nothing happens inside of it. It can be empty.
Right. And this was what happened to Italy, right? Is that early on,
right,
people died at home. A lot of people died at home. And then make it worse, you know, there are the horror stories of people waiting 4 or 5 days for somebody to come collect the body because there's nobody to pick it up and there's nowhere to take it.
I'll never forget those images of, I want to say they were like soccer arenas or indoor soccer or something they just turned it into a morgue basically. And it's vivid. It's in my mind. It's tough. However, you asked me about inoculation. So let's transition there.
I did. I just went somewhere else. So.
But it's starting, I guess, for certain people. So Maya is a nurse and she's got the first, what do you call it? The first shot, the first vaccine, the first installment.
That's probably why they call it a jab.
There you go. I want to say it was last week, but the irony is she didn't get it because she's a nurse. She got it because she's an essential caregiver for a family member who's in long-term care.
Oh, interesting.
So it could have been me. It could have been anybody. She could have, if she was an accountant, she would still have got it.
Wow.
So, and she still hasn't gotten notice from her hospital on when she's going to, or she did get notice, but then they ran out of vaccines. So
that's, so many words.
So this is secondhand knowledge, but according to her, she got an email from the long-term care facility because they emailed all the staff who works there and the essential caregivers who were signed up to say that you can come on this day, and in 5 hours, apparently they vaccinated like, I don't know, 1,000 people or something.
Wow.
So, but the story goes that the CEO of that long-term care facility essentially pushed it, and if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have happened. So,
boy, I'm running out of faith. But to be fair, it was only in December.
It hasn't been very long. I don't understand quite the criticism. On the other hand, you don't have to have the vaccine physically to have a plan to distribute it.
Yeah.
So,
listen, the gentleman who is in charge of the logistics military operation of distribution, I am 100% sure that guy has his shit together. I really am.
Yes.
It's always the last mile, as they say in the delivery business, that is the most complicated because it's no different than Purolator sticking something on your door. It's like everything worked right up to that point. And I think for the vaccine, the failure point is we've basically given the vaccine now to a bunch of Purolator drivers and saying, get these to the addresses. And
you don't bring someone out of retirement who doesn't know what they're doing.
No, they retired. They might have retired because they didn't know what they were doing anymore.
So, I chalk it up. I mean, there's probably some incompetence, but I think it's mostly just us being fatigued and just wanting this, please God, be over.
100%.
But it's only been, I really only count it since January 1st, honestly, because, they say they got 5,000 vaccines or whatever the number is. That's really nothing. It's nothing as a country. It's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, and we know September is when the majority of Canadians will have been inoculated. We know that.
So I just put a little link in the chat there. Did you see that?
No, I don't look at the chat. Oh, look at that. There's a chat.
If you go to that website, I'm sure you've seen this circulated. People have been passing this around.
What?
So it's the vaccine Q calculator for Canada.
I love this. Oh, I have to do this.
So let's do it. Let's do it right now. I did it for me. And I'm sure you'll probably have the same answer because we're all in the same boat. But
I'm 45.
You just put your age in and basically, are you pregnant?
Not yet.
Are you a healthcare worker? Are you from an Indigenous community? Do you live or work in a group setting? Now, I had to click on more info for that because I wasn't, but if you hover over that, basically, are you in prison, shelters, migrant workers, etc. And then it tells you a nice little profile at the bottom.
Oh, look, I got was it me? There's me.
Yeah.
I'm in stage 3.
Oh, me too.
Oh, I love this. Okay, National guy. Oh, this is good. Who made this?
I don't know, but it's great, isn't it?
It can't be anywhere near accurate.
I don't know.
There's too many ads in it. You should expect to receive your 2 doses of the vaccine to be fully protected, whatever that means, by July 2021 and early September 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay. I can make this with some macros in a spreadsheet just based on some government info. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me change this for a second.
Okay.
Let's go, I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And I live in an Indigenous community. All right. And what else? I mean, I'm essential there. Oh, I'm essential.
Okay.
All right. I've done that. Do I have to refresh anything? Oh, it's not currently. Oh, I'm pregnant. I shouldn't get one.
Oh.
Okay, we'll put this link in the show notes for folks to check it. This is awesome.
I think it's interesting. I came across it the other day and I was like, okay, well, because it's I don't know, like in April we were saying the government said 2 weeks just because it's manageable, it's palatable in your mind. They knew it wasn't going to be 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. The vaccine exists. It's being rolled out. These are all good things. Mm-hmm. Uncle Corey and Woody aren't getting it. We're not. Mm-hmm. We talked about this, I think, on the last episode. We're not in the front of the line. We're not even in the middle of the line. We are in the nosebleeds back of the line, and that's okay. But I think putting a date on it helps. At least it does for me mentally. So July, September. Okay, I can do that.
Hey, white privilege finishes last on this one. That's. Yes. I'm with that. I'm down. I'm good. I'm good. There's part of me that doesn't want it anymore. I'm like this. I can manage this. Let's just keep this going.
Keep it going.
That's great. I didn't like, socializing anyway. But we're in an amazing position. You're right. If we put it in perspective, and all of our timelines, I think, are skewed because all of our perception of time is like super skewed. Mm-hmm. But if we were to, pull back and look at the bigger picture, this is ridiculous that we're rolling out a vaccine like now.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. And it's effective. And there's more of them coming.
And there'll be more information coming, and we're going to learn more all the time. It's great. It's a medical marvel, as they say. But it is. I mean, if you think they made this in 8 months, which basically they did. And there are 3 of them now that I know of that have been approved in various parts of the world.
Yeah.
There's this one that's from the UK, and I forget the name of it, but Cambridge, Oxford
one,
right?
Something, yeah.
That I assume will be approved here, relatively soon. So it's coming.
We have so many of them, we forgot the names of them. It's fantastic.
I got the Moderna one, by the way, just if you're interested.
Oh, I was actually. Good to know. That's the one that's easier to transport, right? It
doesn't require a polar climate, I believe. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
But other than that, I don't know. No side effects. She was fine. It's all good. So
brighter days ahead. I'm optimistic. As long as we can just keep this tamped down a little bit between now and then,
Well, you have to be optimistic because there are a lot of things that have happened since April. We were talking about when we started doing this show, and in 9 months since then, I mean, there's a vaccine now. So, I mean, hello, it's, it's coming. Need to be a bit more patient. However, the numbers are real scary, and that people aren't scared by the numbers is also scary.
Well, your premier said, if you saw the number, I saw the numbers, and I think if you saw them, you'd fall off your chair.
He did.
And then was asked, what numbers are you seeing? And then did not really provide those. It's like, well, that's not reassuring. But
see, these are the things that are not good.
No, it makes it really hard to follow your...
and they had that whole announcement at Pearson Airport this week about testing coming in for people landing. Okay, this is good. And then they went through the whole thing about how it's an optional test. Like, well, no, that's not good. No, why would it be optional? Yeah.
I'm going to stay the blazes home. You know what? It's the easiest. Honestly, it's just gotten to a place where I don't care. Y'all can do whatever governmenting you're going to do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stay home. And when I'm inoculated twice, I'm probably going to the Ukraine or whatever. Okinawa is on my mind lately because I'm watching Karate Kid. So
yes,
that's what I'm doing. In the meantime, the virus is going to virus and the government's going to government, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I have a little short plan for when we're both inoculated. The first thing is we're going to have a housewarming party because we moved into this place at the end of March and no one's come over. So
me neither.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
That's number one. Number two is we're going to get in the old car and we're going to drive to Uranati's place and we're going to play some pickleball. That's what we're going to do.
Holy cow, this is a really good plan.
Step 3 is basically whatever the hell we want. We're going to go wherever, probably to some island or whatever. But those are the first two things we're going to on our list.
Yeah, I think I'm going down to Costa Rica for a bit. That's what I'm going to probably do. Go to Punta Arenas or something.
Because that's the place post-pandemic. That's number one on my list is Punta Arenas.
Well, to wrap it up, there's a good challenge you put forth ahead of the show, and that was to go back and listen to episode 1 to see kind of where we were at. And I'm going to put that to the listeners too. Go back to episode 1 if you're bored, because I know you are.
Yep.
And let us know if there's any measurable difference between our demeanor now and demeanor then.
Pandemic in real time,
Right. Yeah,
it's a different kind of season of a podcast.
Okie dokie. I'm Corey.
And I be Woody.
Are you okay?
Yeah. I think so.
This is the ISOcast.